So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Entrepreneurship 101.
Mars's mission is to help grow the next generation of companies that will really be the foundation of our knowledge economy. And our focus is on creating relevant, real-time, contextual, experience-based learning opportunities for entrepreneurs that are in the process of building those companies.
If you got that drive, and you have the passion, and you have the go-to attitude, guess what? Now you just have to go out there and do it. And by the end of this course, we're very confident in the fact you'll be able to go out there and execute on your plan.
Entrepreneurship 101 is really designed to serve the people that are thinking about starting a business. This could be someone in graduate school, an undergraduate engineer, scientist, all the way through to people that are maybe been working in industry for 10, 15 years who all of a sudden think, you know what, now might be the right time to start a business. It's a 30-week program, 1 day a week for about an hour and 15 minutes. It's a free program, and again, it's designed to really meet the needs of people thinking about starting a business.
My favorite lecture was probably about bootstrapping. I found that very applicable to us because we've started off on a very low budget and we're a very low budget business.
The grassroots education, the Entrepreneurship 101, would cover a whole suite of different topics, but it's really designed for that level of person. I'm thinking about starting a business. What do I need to think about?
To hear a leading investor say what kinds of things they're looking for and give you real advice, for us, that was eye-opening for us. We had no idea about those kinds of things.
When you have a series of experienced VCs on the stage painting a reality as to how difficult it really is to get capital, it really forces the entrepreneurs and the would-be entrepreneurs in the audience to really think through, okay, what are the elements that I'm going to need to get lined up to really have a strong business case to go to the capital communities to raise money.
The most valuable part of Entrepreneurship 101, I would say, was getting to hear such great speakers speak on a variety of topics.
One of the other advantages is the opportunity for the entrepreneurs to network, not only with the lecturers and panelists that might be presenting, but also with other would-be entrepreneurs to share insights and experiences about what are you thinking and what are some of the challenges that you have.
So Entrepreneurship 101 is really that foundational layer that we wanted to build that would not only connect the community into the resources of Mars, but would begin to lay the groundwork for a long-term, robust entrepreneurship community in Ontario.
Entrepreneurship 101 is just the start. Check out our other educational events or take a look at our Entrepreneur's Toolkit. We have hundreds of online resources that can help you grow your business. And don't worry if you miss a lecture. You can watch the videos in the Entrepreneur's Toolkit or download our Mars Toolkit iPhone app for free from iTunes.
You do those things, you're going to be successful in any market.
So good evening, everyone. Welcome to our 7th year of Entrepreneurship 101. We are totally delighted to see such a huge crowd tonight. My name is Keri Damen. I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship Education here at Mars. Just want a show of hands of who's been to Entrepreneurship 101 before. So we've got mostly a new crowd this year. That's great. So you're going to really enjoy this program. I wanted to first start by acknowledging our sponsor. CIBC has been sponsoring this program for 5 years, and it's due to their sponsorship that we're able to offer this to you for free. So if you could just give a round of applause for CIBC to thank them for their generous sponsorship. I'd especially like to thank Joan Peters and Jeff Bank from CIBC for really supporting Entrepreneurship 101 and entrepreneurship in our community. It's very important to us. And a second thank you that I'd like to make is if you have been to Entrepreneurship 101 before, you know that I'm not the face of Entrepreneurship 101. I'm new this year. For the last 5 years, Tony Redpath, who's hiding in the back, was actually one of the founders of Entrepreneurship 101 and has been the face of Entrepreneurship 101. He's worked tirelessly over the years to continue to build and offer this program for free to entrepreneurs. So Tony, if you could just put your hand up and we could all give you a warm thank you as well. So with that, we'll begin. So today I'm just going to introduce Entrepreneurship 101 and talk a little bit about finding and validating your idea. And I'll also talk about what Mars is and what Mars Education does and just entrepreneurship in general. But first I wanted to start with why entrepreneurship matters. Why are we here and why is it so important? So here's Dennis Whittle on why entrepreneurship matters.
Entrepreneurs do three things. They birth the new in a simple way. That is to say, every type of innovation we have has largely come from people thinking innovatively, and most of them come from firms that were created to bring forth this new technology that the inventor or entrepreneur thought up. The second thing they do is even much more important, and that is when new firms are started, they create jobs. This is actually quite apparent, but economists and policymakers, politicians don't get this. You know, if you're running General Electric or General Motors, your stockholders want higher productivity. They want more product coming out for less expense. It's a simple equation. It's the amount of product divided by the number of people who work in the company. And if you're the president of one of those companies, your job is to drive that number on the denominator down. You want fewer people. Well, if you start a brand new company and you're going to make something, you're going to deliver a service or a product, you got to have people. So you don't want to have more employees than necessary. But without employees, you got nothing. So new firms hire. And in fact, the statistics from the Kauffman Foundation tell us that new firms are the place where all new hiring takes place, the net job creation. And it's not a small number. On average, new firms in the United States create about 3 million jobs a year. In fact, at the margin, that is where all the jobs are that are created in the economy that are new, it's the new firms that do it. Put differently, the United States, unlike a lot of countries, has a growing population, has a growing labor force. We need 3 million brand new jobs every year. That's if everybody else kept their job. With the entry of young people, with the coming of immigrants, with people returning to the labor market, we need 3 million new jobs every year. And those jobs are the vast preponderance. Almost all of them come in firms that are less than 5 years old. Now, the third thing that entrepreneurs do with their new companies is they create all the new net wealth in the society. So if we didn't have new companies, the society would gradually grow in relative terms poorer. Now, we think about entrepreneurs as actually sometimes becoming very rich. We have in mind Steve Jobs or Bill Gates or Sergey Brin. These guys get very, very wealthy. But in fact, the real wealth goes into the society. It's estimated that the people who start these firms take a fraction, in some cases less than 1%, of all the new net wealth that their companies generate for the society. Think about what Bill Gates did with Microsoft. Now, he made a fortune for himself, tens of billions of dollars. But he's made every one of us richer in economic terms. We are all much better off. So these are all the things that entrepreneurs do. They keep pushing the innovative, they push the new, they make jobs for people, and they make wealth for the society. America and the world will, as long as human beings walk this planet, need innovators, need inventors, need entrepreneurs.
So that's why entrepreneurship matters. Not only does it create innovation that helps you in your everyday life, but it creates jobs and wealth for our society. And in very uncertain economic times, like what is happening in the US right now, where there are no new jobs being created, it's becoming more and more important. So that's why we're here. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about what Mars does and where Mars education fits into sort of the broader spectrum of the programs at Mars. Mars is focused on building Canada's next generation of companies. And the reason for this is the job and wealth creation. So how do we do this? We connect science, business, and capital to improve the efficiency of the commercialization process. So those of you familiar with this area, the Discovery District with all the major research hospitals and the University of Toronto, know that there's a lot of great innovation and research happening in this area. In fact, there's $1 billion US every year going into research in this area. But our challenge is to commercialize these innovations and these technologies and to do it faster, to bring technologies to market to create jobs. So Mars is not just an organization for the GTA. We're actually highly connected around the province and around the world. We're connected to 14 different regional innovation centers in Ontario. The history of this building is really unique. So this heritage building that you're in right now is actually the former Toronto General Hospital. This is a picture around the turn of the 20th century when it was first built. Many major innovations happened here. Probably the one that you might know of is that the first clinical trials for insulin were completed in this building by Dr. Banting. He later won the Nobel Prize. So you can see why this would be a perfect place for us to foster innovation. Not only the building itself, but the area around us. Again, the research hospitals, the University of Toronto, we've got the financial district, and many other creative and arts organizations. So we're trying to build an urban innovation hub in Toronto. The building today has about 80 organizations in it. So Mars is we're just a small part of actually what's in this building. There's a number of private and public sector organizations. We have everything from really small startups in our incubator to multinational companies, and as well as a lot of partners that work alongside us on innovating. So when I talk about the science, business, and capital, those are actually the 3 flags of the convergence innovation. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring those communities together to have a place to meet and form connections that help us all foster innovation. So what does Mars do? We have a number of programs. I can't talk about them all here, but I'll highlight a couple of the key programs that might be relevant to you. We have a suite of advisory services. So we focus on 4 different sectors: life sciences and healthcare, ICT, we call it ICE, but it means ICT plus entertainment, clean tech, and social innovation. If you're not familiar with social innovation, I'll actually talk a little bit about it in a couple slides. But these advisors work to support entrepreneurs in many different areas. You can see there's a number of areas that they can help entrepreneurs. Not only do we have full-time advisors, we've got a network of entrepreneurs in residences, or EIRs, that are part-time advisors, and a very vast network of volunteer advisors. And we need that large network because entrepreneurs are operating in so many different niches that you need sometimes specific expertise in certain areas to really help them. The second major part of Mars is education. So this is where my team fits in. There's 3 areas to education. Events, you're at one of the biggest event series we have, which is Entrepreneurship 101. We also have a number of online resources, which I'll talk about. And for clients of the business advisory services, we have workshops. And our goal is to develop a suite of integrated, high-quality entrepreneurship education programs and to help Ontario entrepreneurs. So if we look at what we've done in the last year, we had about 84 educational events with about 8,000 people who attended for about 10,000 hours of education. Entrepreneurship 101 is a huge part of that with 30 events. But after Entrepreneurship 101, there's a number of other educational series that can help you. So once you graduate from this program, or if this is not the right program for you, there are other programs that we think can help. Our Mars Best Practices series is our intermediate series. It's once a month and it covers all kinds of different topics in greater depth. We have a Mars Market Insight series, which covers sector-specific challenges and opportunities. Our Mars Global Leadership series is a thought leadership series, and we have a Mars Capital series, which connects the community to investors. All these are actually, most of the events in these series are digitally recorded and available online, so you can watch the videos. I'll talk a little bit later about all our entrepreneurship education resources that we have online. We have something called the Entrepreneur's Toolkit that has a number of different types of resources, articles, videos, workbooks, and a funding database, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So that's education. So we talked about advisory and education. We also have market intelligence services and a number of programs that can connect entrepreneurs to capital. And sort of underlying all these programs is that the building itself and the programs themselves and the events all to help to build a community of entrepreneurs and to build those networks for you. So what is entrepreneurship? So it's really interesting because entrepreneurship is, sometimes when I talk to people and I say, you know, I help entrepreneurs, a lot of people who are entrepreneurs actually don't identify as being entrepreneurs. They just say, oh, I started a business. So it is a very vast range of people. They might just think, oh, I work for myself, or I started a business, or they have a really small company. But entrepreneurs are individuals who identify opportunities, they allocate resources, and they create value through the identification of unmet needs and opportunities. So they find a need that they can meet in the market, and they figure out how to meet that need. Social entrepreneurship, which is a huge part of Mars, adds an extra layer to that. So they're meeting a need, but often the need is to help alleviate or solve a social problem. So they operate like businesses, but they have a triple bottom line. They want to help society. So if we look at sort of what businesses are trying to do in general, I love Peter Drucker. Anybody who knows me, he's a famous management guy and has written tons of books. But he says, the purpose of a business is to find and serve customers profitably. It's that simple. Or is it? So let's look a little bit at whether you have what it takes. So who in this audience would say that they are, at this point in time, just interested in entrepreneurship, just checking it out, wanting to learn more? Who would say that they are an entrepreneur? They're already starting to work on something. Is that about the same amount? Who's a serial entrepreneur and can't get enough? Nicely done. We love it. Okay, so basically researchers are trying to bottle what is in the entrepreneurial mind. Because entrepreneurship is so important for our society, they want to know what makes entrepreneurs different. Often they can't find anything, and other times they find tons of stuff. But one study that I really liked sort of was a meta-study and looked at all kinds of these reports, and it found that they do have some specific capabilities that are a little bit different from regular people. And it's called 5 Minds for the Entrepreneurial Future, the article, and it talks about the opportunity recognizing mind. So this is the serial entrepreneurs out there. They're constantly looking into the environment, finding an opportunity or a need that's out there and thinking of ways to meet that. So they're seeking opportunity all the time. The designing mind has to deal with, they're not like regular business people where they might work in finance or marketing. They're able to design the different pieces of a business and put it all together. So they can see how product development feeds into marketing, feeds into sales, and all the different pieces at the same time. They have what's called a risk managing mind. So we think of entrepreneurs as risk takers, but actually they're very skilled risk managers. They identify risks early to deal with them, and they take calculated risks. Some people would actually say that being an entrepreneur is less risky than being a salaried employee in uncertain times because you have more control over your future. Obviously, this is a bit self-explanatory. The resilient mind, so they can handle the ups and downs, the little successes, the big successes, the little failures, the big failures, and continue on. And the last one, the effectuating mind, has to do with the very strong action orientation of the entrepreneur. These are not guys or people who sit and think and write out a business plan and execute every last thing all in a logical order. They're very action oriented. They might write a business plan, they go out and try something, maybe it didn't work, they get feedback from the environment, and they come back and course correct and go, well, actually the customer didn't want that, or this didn't work, let's change it. So they're constantly reading their environment and changing what they're doing. What's really surprising is we think entrepreneurs are all about money. And the Startup Genome Report, which was just released in May, says that they're not. They're not just motivated by money. In fact, almost 70% are motivated by impact. This has to do with social entrepreneurship or just wanting to make a difference in the world. And only 5% were motivated by money. It's also having control over your own environment. So can you learn entrepreneurship? This is the million-dollar question, and I may be a little biased on this one, given what I do, but I truly believe you can learn entrepreneurship. An Ernst & Young study that studied entrepreneurs asked them, what was the most helpful factor in their life in order for them to become an entrepreneur. About 1/3 said their higher education, another third said their corporate experience, and the final third said having a strong business mentor or access to good advisors. Well, all those things are, in essence, teaching. You learn at school, you learn via experience at work, and you learn from advisors. So I believe that it really can be learned. So most of what you hear about entrepreneurship is all wrong. It's not magic, it's not mysterious, and it has nothing to do with genes. It's a discipline, and like any discipline, it can be learned. Again, Peter Drucker. And here's another sort of evidence that it can be learned, that there really is an element of teaching involved in entrepreneurship. So this is also from the Startup Genome Report, and this talks about the difference between those startups who have helpful mentors and those who don't have helpful mentors. And you can see the green line, how much more funding they have raised with the help of mentors. So how can this course help you? So basically, we can't create entrepreneurial drive. If you're here, you probably have it. But what we can do is help you with tools and that can help build your company and accelerate your idea. So the course. The course started out in its early beginnings as very much focused on science, engineering, medical researchers, and others working in this area in hospitals or in the university or in the private sector. In the last couple of years, it's moved into serving social entrepreneurs as well. But we also have people that are just interested in entrepreneurship generally. So you may not fall into a high-tech or social innovation space, but we think a lot of the business fundamentals are the same. So you'll still find value in this course. If you have an idea in mind, who has an idea right now? Who has more than one idea? Nice. Yeah, the challenge is choosing. So, okay, if you have a couple ideas, try to go through the course, and as with each lecture, use what you're learning to brainstorm what that might look like in each of the ideas. It might help you choose, but if you just have one idea, it'll help you see the steps that you need to take to go to build your business. So, it's a 30-week course. We have about 21 lectures that are on business topics, business fundamentals. But we believe very strongly that entrepreneurship is best taught by entrepreneurs. So 1/3 of the course is entrepreneurs speaking. We have 2 different mini-series. One is called Lived It Lectures, where we have big celebrated entrepreneurs coming in. In fact, the first one is next week, and it's with the Moblicity CEO, Dave Damen. So we are really excited to have him come in, because he's basically taken on the big 3 carriers, so that's quite the challenge. So the Lived It Lectures are in each of the MARS sectors, the ICT, Clean Tech, Life Sciences, and Healthcare and Social Innovation. So you can hear stories of celebrated entrepreneurs in those areas. We also have another mini-series which is called Meet the Entrepreneurs. And this is to hear from startups, to hear from people that are building right now. So we have a panel of entrepreneurs. They're usually just really cool clients that Mars works with. And there's ample opportunity for you to ask them questions about what challenges they're facing, what they're going through. And after each of the Meet the Entrepreneurs sessions, we have a networking event out there. We also invite Mars clients to the Meet the Entrepreneurs sessions as well to get that industry sort of interaction going. Another part of the course is that we have an UpStart competition. Our UpStart competition happens in May. I'll talk a little bit about it in a couple slides. It's a business pitch competition for a prize of $10,000. So what does the course look like? What are you here to learn? So I sort of think of the course as having 5 big building blocks. The first one is setting your strategy. So the first lecture after our Lived It lecture is actually Tony Redpath is going to make a special guest appearance in his old course. And he's going to talk with Alison Hewitt, who's the Director of Social Innovation here at Mars, about different types of entrepreneurships. This is basically about making the choice. Are you going to be a for-profit, a non-profit? What is your structure going to look like? And what is your funding model going to look like based on those choices? Another lecture that follows that one, also by our guest speaker, Tony Redpath, who wants to come back, is basic nuts and bolts of building a business. And this is the legal and tax implications of building your business. And taking a look, kind of an eagle-eye view of the whole ecosystem that you're going to be creating, like different service providers, accountants and lawyers, and people that you'll have to work with. Also involved in strategy is business communication tools, writing a business plan, elevator pitch. If you're a scientist or a researcher, maybe it's a white paper. So each of these sections, they're not linear, so you'll find that the 5 areas that we have, it jumps around a bit because entrepreneurship isn't that linear, but we do try to give them in an order that makes sense. The second big chunk or building block of the topics is building your product. So when I say product and you're thinking of a service, don't get discouraged. I sort of use them as the same thing. Product development, though, is more focused on building an actual product, a prototype, to something that you can go to market. IP management has to do with your intellectual property. Looking at, do you have patents or copyrights or trademarks or any kinds of those things that you should be looking at. Again, you don't have to be a high-tech company to take a look at your intellectual property. It is still very valuable to look at it. And the chunk that everybody always wants to learn more about is money. How do you fund your business? So, very important lecture we have on building a business model. So what are your expenses going to look like? How much is it going to cost for you to deliver your product or service? And how much can you sell it for? Basically, how are you going to make a profit? Financial planning is about budgeting. So planning your milestones and your goals in your business and how much money you're going to need to get to each of them. Bootstrapping is a very important lecture. Most companies won't have access to venture capital money or other outside investors, so you'll have to bootstrap. And if you don't know what bootstrapping is, it's basically when you self-fund. You know, you get money from yourself, your parents, your friends, or you sell a product or service and self-fund to grow your business. It's the most common way to grow a business. Raising money from venture capitalists. This is when we have a VC panel. I think it was in the video, and they really give you a real sense of what the VC community is looking for, what they want from you, and how to engage with them. It's a very valuable lecture. Terms of investments also has to do if you're looking for VC funding, and that's what's in the term sheet. So what do the legal terms and what do term sheets look like, and what do VCs want from these term sheets, and what should you look out for? Lastly, I think we lost him, but we had our fantastic pitch presenter, Peter Evans, who's a fantastic pitch coach, and he does the lecture at the very end of Entrepreneurship 101. He was in the back, but So that's funding your business. Another really important chunk is marketing and sales. So we have a lot of marketing lectures. We have added to this over the years because we find it's one of the things that is the most challenging. There's lots of great ideas out there. People have great ideas, but the challenge is selling those ideas. So Intro to Marketing just covers, you know, marketing strategy, what to do when, that kind of stuff. Market analysis goes into looking at your competitors, finding your target market and getting information on that and what tools you can use to get that kind of information. Value proposition is developing a clear, concise statement of what the value is that you provide to your customers. It's a really important piece of marketing, because if you don't have in one line what you do for customers, you can't do any of the other marketing pieces. Marketing communications, public relations, building a website, advertising, branding, those types of topics. Sales, we have go-to-market strategy, which is how you launch your product. So it involves all the pieces of marketing as well as finding your first customers. And lastly, distribution. And distribution is how are you going to sell your product or service? Is it going to be e-commerce? Are you going to go through retail stores? Are you going to have distributors? Basically, what channels are you going to use to sell your product? And lastly is building your team. So we always talk about building an A-team. So I didn't know if I'm too old and people don't know this, the A-team, but I grew up with them. And so people always think, you know, building the technology is the hardest part, but actually sometimes people can be a very complicated matter, because when you don't have a lot of money, you have to be very careful about who you hire. Like, you have to hire a salesperson who can sell a new product to a new market. And that might not be somebody who's successful selling in a big company. It might be a completely different kind of person. So recruiting is really, really important. So we'll talk about that. And governance is talking about, you know, building your first advisory board or your board of directors. What kind of people and skills should you be looking for, and how do you work with them to the best of your company's advantage? So those are the topic areas. A little bit about Entrepreneurship 101. So we have it on a couple different platforms. Obviously, there's the live event that you can attend every Wednesday night. This year, we're webcasting to allow access to the course for entrepreneurs around Ontario. You can always view the past videos and related resources online. I'll show you that in a sec. And we just launched a beta version of our new Mars Toolkit iPhone app, which has a section on it called Entrepreneurship 101, so you can actually watch the videos on the iPhone. It's available from iTunes for free. Just a little bit about communication in the course. So if you signed up, if you actually registered online, we have a weekly e-newsletter. So it will have links to the videos and other resources and talk about upcoming events. It'll also have other Mars events of interest, or just in the community, things that we think might interest this community. We have a LinkedIn group that we're hoping to get some discussions going on. It's called Entrepreneurship 101. And we have also, so in past years, we've had people that wanted to get a certificate of participation. So we're trying something new this year. We're not a degree granting institution, but we thought we could give people certificates of participation. So we made these little cards that can go in your wallet. And they have like all 30 little circles, so we'll stamp the lectures that you attend. It's like it reminds me of like Starbucks or something. But we used to use these registration sheets, and there was like 300 signatures, and it just wasn't working. So if you're interested in getting a certificate of participation, you want to put it on your resume, or you just want to have it, when you leave today, we'll be handing out cards with the first stamp already done. So just bring it every week, and if you attend 20 out of 30 lectures, you give us the card, and we'll give you a certificate. It's very nice. It's embossed, and it's all pretty and kind of stuff. So the UpStart competition. So the UpStart competition is a business pitch competition open to those who attend Entrepreneurship 101. It happens in 3 stages. Well, we announced it in November, and we ask that people who are hoping to participate submit a 2 to 3 page executive summary by early January. Each applicant meets with a Mars advisor for sort of for them to select 10 to go forward to the competition. They have February, March, April to work with a Mars advisor on their pitch. So the final 10 have to prepare a 10-minute pitch to a panel of VCs and investors, and they compete for a $10,000 first prize. Last year we actually got lucky, and we had an anonymous donor that provided a second social purpose business prize, so we had another $10,000 offered, so we had 2 prizes. Some of the companies that have won in this competition are amazing, and it's been really neat because when they started, they were really young. So don't get intimidated by, wow, that's really cool. It's amazing to see how far they went in 8 months. Last year, the 2 winners, we had Eve Medical. They make a medical device that you can test for STDs at home, so something you'd actually buy from the pharmacy. And the Hot Plate, which is an online multimedia platform that has little short cooking videos and all kinds of information to teach students how to cook affordably and to make great food. The year before, we had a U of T student, Vincent Chung, who won for Shape Collage, which he made online photo collages. The year before that, 2009, DreamCube won, and they are working with Apple on developing the hardware portion of their UI remote. So basically, they turn the iPhone into a remote, so you can turn on your TV and stuff with your iPhone, so it makes it pretty useful. And Cognovision won 2nd place in 2008, and they were just acquired by Intel in 2010. And they have a really interesting technology. So when you see the digital screens, maybe in the TTC or sometimes in retail stores, well, they've made an interactive digital screen. So when you walk by, it can tell how many people walked by, how long they looked at the sign, it can tell your age, and some of your demographics to change the ad. So if you think about marketing and how everybody wants to know how many clicks they got and to be able to measure marketing online, we haven't been able to measure digital signage. So their technology is amazing for marketers. So what's the competition eligibility? If you're interested, so it's the same deal as the little attendance cards, and it's another reason that we have this. If you attend 20 of the 30 lectures, you're eligible to enter the UpStart competition. It can be a business that's just an idea or one that you've already started. We just ask that it be a small or early stage business so that it's fair for all competitors. And the parameters that we put on that is that you'd have no more than $100,000 in investments since your inception and $100,000 of revenue. And actually, that sounds like a lot, but we've had online businesses that just started and within a couple months they were making money. So we had to actually put a cap on it because they became too big too fast. So eligible ventures must fall into one of the 4 Mars sectors. So the ICE, ICT and entertainment, clean tech, healthcare and life sciences, or social innovation. And just to look at the Entrepreneur's Toolkit, I'm going to whip through this because I think I'm short on time. So basically, in the Entrepreneur's Toolkit, which is our online resources on the Mars DD website, we have about 500 articles. All the articles are really short. They're meant to be really practical so that you can solve problems fast. We know that you don't want to learn everything there is to know about product development or something like that. So you can search by topic. Then you get a subtopic box pops up. You choose the subtopic, and all the articles and related resources are underneath. We also have Entrepreneurship 101 is online. So each of the sessions, and right now they would all have last year's videos, but each of the sessions has a video, the slides, related resources, articles, and workbooks. So that's always available there if you want to accelerate your business and watch more videos more quickly. We also have a funding sources database, and this again is linked to the Mars sector practices. So you can search for funding programs in Internationally, in Ontario and in Canada, 4 are 4 practices: the clean tech, healthcare, ICT, and social. Actually, we don't have social innovation on there because there's thousands of them. We have about 500 resources available online. And this is meant to, these are all external grant funding programs, so they're not Mars programs, but what we try to do is put them in a spot that it makes it easy for you to find these programs and save you time. And lastly, we have workbooks. And the workbooks are something that the advisors use sometimes with their clients. You know, a workbook might teach you how to write a business plan so that you can go home and get it started and then sort of maximize your time with the advisor by asking more strategic questions. There's 18 different workbooks, and they each have a deliverable and sometimes a template that you can write in the side. And they make things like how to make your marketing strategy, how to make your marketing communication strategy, how to make a pitch deck, business plan. So it's all very practical, useful stuff. And lastly, I just want to talk a little bit about finding your idea. So I saw that a lot of you have ideas, and I think that this video it'll be quite interesting because it takes a different approach on where ideas come from.
For the past 5 years, I've been investigating this question of where good ideas come from. It's the kind of problem I think all of us are intrinsically interested in. We want to be more creative, we want to come up with better ideas, we want our organizations to be more innovative. I've looked at this problem from an environmental perspective. What are the spaces that have historically led to unusual rates of creativity and innovation? And what I've found in all of these systems, there are these recurring patterns that you see again and again that are crucial to creating environments that are unusually innovative. One pattern I call the slow hunch. That breakthrough ideas almost never come in a moment of great insight, in a sudden stroke of inspiration. Most important ideas take a long time to evolve, and they spend a long time dormant in the background. It isn't until the idea has had 2 or 3 years, sometimes 10 or 20 years to mature, that it suddenly becomes accessible to you and useful to you in a certain way. And this is partially because good ideas normally come from the collision between smaller hunches, so that they form something bigger than themselves. So you see a lot in the history of innovation, cases of someone who has half of an idea. There's a great story about the invention of the World Wide Web and Tim Berners-Lee. This is a project that Berners-Lee worked on for 10 years. But when he started, he didn't have a full vision for this new medium he was going to invent. He started working on one project as a side project to help him organize his own data. He scrapped that after a couple years, and he started working on another thing. And only after about 10 years did the full vision of the World Wide Web come into being. That is, more often than not, how ideas happen. They need time to incubate, and they spend a lot of time in this partial hunch form. The other thing that's important when you think about ideas this way is that when ideas take form in this hunch state, they need to collide with other hunches. Oftentimes, the thing that turns a hunch into a real breakthrough is another hunch that's lurking in somebody else's mind. And you have to figure out a way to create systems that allow those hunches to come together and turn into something bigger than the sum of their parts. That's why, for instance, the coffee house in the age of the Enlightenment, or the Parisian salons of modernism, were such engines of creativity, because they created a space where ideas could mingle and swap and create new forms. When you look at the problem of innovation from this perspective, it sheds a lot of important light on the debate we've been having recently about what the internet is doing to our brains. Are we getting overwhelmed with an always connected, multitasking lifestyle? And is that going to lead to less sophisticated thoughts as we move away from the slower, deeper, contemplative state of reading, for instance? Obviously, I'm a big fan of reading. But I think it's important to remember that the great driver of scientific innovation and technological innovation has been the historic increase in connectivity and our ability to reach out and exchange ideas with other people and to borrow other people's hunches and combine them with our hunches and turn them into something new. That really has, I think, been, more than anything else, the primary engine of creativity and innovation over the last 600 or 700 years. And so yes, it's true we're more distracted. But what has happened that is really miraculous and marvelous over the last 15 years is that we have so many new ways to connect and so many new ways to reach out and find other people who have that missing piece that will complete the idea we're working on, or to stumble serendipitously across some amazing new piece of information that we can use to build and improve our own ideas. That's the real lesson of where good ideas come from, that chance favors the connected mind.
So chance favors the connected mind. What I like about this video is that it really takes a different approach to finding your idea. It's not like an apple fell on Newton's head and you have an eureka moment. And it enables entrepreneurship to be more open to more people. If you think about that ideas come through collision with other people, they come over time. So some of the, when I was trying to do some research and find out, how did entrepreneurs come up with their ideas? And I found a lot of these themes. One is they scratch their own itch. So they use their own experience to identify and solve problems, create products you would use. Last year we had a lived it lecture by the founder of FreshBooks, which is, if you're a small business actually, it's a great platform. It's a company in Waterloo that makes accounting software really easy for the small business market. And he had a graphic design firm and was really annoyed because in the market there was no suitable product for him to do his invoicing and accounting. So he created something. Then he went, wait a minute, I can sell this. So that's where FreshBooks came from. So that's an example of scratching your own itch. Actually, it's a great lecture. It's in our Lived It lectures if you're interested. Another way you can come up with an idea is to iterate. And again, that's that trying something and developing it and refining it over time. So an example is actually Facebook. Facebook was Mark Zuckerberg's third sort of connecting platform. He had two other ideas before, if you saw the social network. So it wasn't like he woke up in the middle of the night and said, I'm going to make this. He had a couple tries and then he went, okay, this worked, this didn't, this is what I think it should look like. Another thing that, and you see this a lot actually when you kind of look at products coming from different industries, is the reassembling of ideas. So something that happens in another industry sometimes yet hasn't been tried in a different industry. So sometimes creativity is just the act of reassembling known things in different ways. The other thing is collaboration, sort of talking and listening to those around you. An example of sort of, it's not always the lone entrepreneur is Apple. So Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. Well, Steve Wozniak was the tech guy. He was the guy that was building the cool stuff in the garage. And Steve Jobs was the marketing guy that went, I know what we can do with this. And together, they were a great pair. I think of the Beatles too when I talk about them, because I think of John Lennon and Paul McCartney as also being that pair that just somehow it worked really well together. So as you go through your entrepreneurship journey, try to find somebody that sort of complements you, where you're weak, they're strong, and vice versa, because that can be a really dynamic, can make a really dynamic partnership. And lastly, some people turn all this stuff totally on its head, and instead of looking out into the environment and seeing what problems they have and what they think needs to be solved, they start with no information, and they go and ask the customers themselves, what are your problems? What are the things that you need to get solved? It's kind of like being a consultant a little bit. Like if you can get a referral into companies to talk to the right people and start polling people and finding out where their pain points are, then you create the solution to solve that pain. So finding your idea is one piece. The next is testing it. So entrepreneurs often, they're like, I have a great idea. If you build it, they will come. Everybody's going to want to buy it. Everyone's going to love it. But they're jumping over the step of testing that idea. So making sure your assumptions about what your customer wants and will they buy it are true. So validation is testing your value proposition in your market. Why is this important? Well, the number one reason that startups fail is because they don't have enough customers. So you need to find out as early as possible if you're going to have customers. This quote from Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, it totally nails it. There is only one boss, the customer, and they can fire everybody in the company from the chairman on down simply by spending their money somewhere else. So how do you validate your idea? Well, you talk to your customer. First of all, you find out if you have a solution already, is it solving a problem they have? Well, that's great, but we all know that when you go to buy electronics and stuff, there's all these need-to-have features, and there's the nice to have features. So you need to find out if you're in the need to have features, i.e., are they going to pay for your solution? Is it that important, or is it just the problem's a minor inconvenience and they're maybe not willing to pay for it? So the question to ask is the problem a bleeding neck wound, which is a term we use around Mars, like meaning a real problem that they're really willing to pay to solve. So once you know that you have a problem, they're willing to buy it, you have to see, can you build what they need economically and figure out that. So that has to do with budgeting and setting milestones and seeing how much it will cost. And then you have to find out how much they're willing to pay. So when you know how much it costs and you know how much they're willing to pay, then you know if you'll be profitable or not. So these are the steps to think about in validating your idea. I bring this up early in the course because a lot of people build technology thinking for technology's sake or have a product or service, and then they just think the market will exist when they're done. And the earlier that you can go out and start talking to your market, the more information you will have. It may save you time and money developing your product. So the goal is to achieve product market fit via trial and error early on in the development of your product. And that is it. So if you have any questions for me, you can come to the mics, or you can come after we finish and just come and ask me in person. Is there anybody that has any questions? Okay, are there any questions from?
Yep, we actually had one question come through the webcast. For those that are participating by way of webinar, if they would like to participate in the UpStart competition, is there a way of tracking their attendance?
We'll have to look into that. I don't know.
I know the answer to this. If you are participating through the webcast, you are required to register to enter for each lecture that you're watching, so we will be able to monitor your attendance that way, and we'll know if you've watched 20 of them.
The UpStart competition goes province-wide. That would be really exciting. That would be great. Do you mind going to the mic just so that the webcast can hear you, or she'll bring it?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Miro Grudzinski. I'm the founder and member of development team of the Side by Side We Are One project, the project which is promoting bilateral relationship between the United States and Canada as a model for the world. And from the social platform is honoring all uniformed public servants of North America with emphasis on honoring the fallen and supporting widows, orphans, and wounded warriors. The project has been already introduced to the government of the United States and Canada. I've been here in this session already 2 years ago, but with all the implementation of the performance and, of course, you know, the event management structures and participation in some functions to create the tangible, deliverable, performing testimonies, we had to just postpone, you know, our attendance here with Mars. The question for me is, if we are going to come, for example, right now to your institution here, of course, participating at the same time in these sessions to just get a credit, but I was already talking to Tony before, you know, with the doctor, and he liked the model. That time I didn't want to expose the model due to this need.
So if it's a question about the advisory services, maybe we'll take that offline.
Yes,
that might be.
Yes. This is something what I eventually would like just to address directly to executive
That's
team.
a whole conversation, so maybe you can come up afterwards and we can talk about
great.
advisory services. Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, do you want to just grab that mic?
Is the course free?
Of the Entrepreneurship 101? Yes, it's a free course. Webcasts are free, all the materials, Entrepreneur's Toolkit is free. Actually, if even becoming a client of Mars, if you're interested when you get to a later stage into your business, the advisory services are free too. One more?
I had signed up for the advisory services, and I'm just wondering if the ICT group or the ICE group is in attendance right now.
I don't see anybody. You could perhaps talk to Tony in the back. He's in the white, the sort of brown jacket, white shirt. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. If you have any other questions, I'm going to stay after for a little while. Come up and talk to me. Otherwise, I'm so glad you came, and we hope to see you again next week. Thanks very much.